Product design, UX design, what's the difference and does it actually matter? That's what I will discuss in this video. I know that a lot of people requested this and there are a lot of opinions on what UX designers do versus what product designers do. But today we'll dig deeper and we'll find out the truth if the two are really that different. Can we film?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I also say in the past I've worked as a UX designer, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
So I got receipts.
Yeah.
I'll first break down the roles for you and I'll explain what a UX designer does versus what a product designer does, and stick around to see what the differences between the roles are because my opinion might surprise you. In the past, I've worked as a UX designer and I'm currently working as a product designer, so I can already tell from experience how these roles might differ. But of course, this is also different from every role in every region. So without further ado, let's dive in and find out what a UX designer actually does. So UX designers help companies better understand their users, and they do that by conducting user research, by helping companies define problem statements, and then later on also ideate solutions and test those solutions with prototypes. UX designers focus on building products and services that are usable, user-friendly, and that fulfill the user's needs and wishes. So what a UX designer mostly does for companies is that they help companies develop new products and services or new features or new apps. Now, an important thing to note here is that in this video, I mostly talk about UX designers working in the digital space, so UX designers that create digital products and services, but of course you also have UX designers that work in physical spaces. For example, some UX designers might be involved with designing physical objects like heavy machinery. Now that we know a bit more about what a UX designer does, let's take a look at the role of product designers. Now, when you hear the term product designer, you might think of someone that designs chairs or vases or any kind of fancy interior objects, and indeed these are also product designers, but when we talk about product designers we mean digital product designers, so people that design digital products. And this is a little bit hard to define because what is a digital product? Nowadays that's a bit hard to say because a lot of companies don't necessarily only create digital products or services, but they have a hybrid. And so it's hard to really differentiate between digital products and services. But as an example, when you buy your an album from your favorite musician on Apple Music, you're essentially buying a digital product because you're buying MP3s. However, when you're listening to your favorite album on Spotify, you're using a service because Spotify is making that music accessible to you through a platform, but you do not own the music as a local file. So a digital product is a digital good that you can use and own. Now, there are a lot of opinions on what product designers do versus what UX designers do, and it seems like there is not really a consensus on the internet if there are differences and what these differences exactly are. So the general consensus seems to be that product designers mostly focus on maintaining and further developing existing products, whereas UX designers mostly focus on developing new products. So UX designers are more involved in the early stages of the design process, whereas product designers might step in when a product is already launched and will help this product grow further. There are sources on the internet that see the difference between product designers and UX designers as a question of specialty. So they see UX designers as designers that are mostly concerned with designing functional, user-friendly, usable products and solutions. And they also see UX designers as the people that are mostly responsible for doing user research, for example. That means that UX designers are mostly concerned with the early stages of the design process. That means user research, wireframing, prototyping, whereas product designers come in at later stages. Some sources also say that product designers are more like a jack of all trades. They help a product develop throughout the whole cycle. So not only are they responsible for user research, for wireframing, for prototyping, but also for creating the final user interfaces or the final designs. And that is something that a UX designer usually doesn't do. Now, you also have sources online that see the difference between product designers and UX designers as one where product designers have a business focus. So they say that product designers are more concerned with the business objectives, maybe even with product management or project management. But I would disagree with this because I would say that also UX designers should have a business focus in their work. Even when we are the advocates for the users, we have to take business objectives into account, otherwise we would be out of jobs really fast. Other sources mostly see the differences between roles and responsibilities. So they see that the roles and responsibilities of UX designers are mostly focused on the early stages of the product development cycle. That means that UX designers are mostly concerned with developing new features or new products, whereas product designers are mostly focused on maintaining existing products. So they come into the game when a product is already launched. So as you can see, it's pretty hard to define what a product designer exactly is and what a UX designer is and what the differences are, because so many different sources say different things. And our roles and our jobs are also not clearly defined. So a lot of companies also have their own interpretation of what a product designer does or what a UX designer does. Now, for me personally, I don't push much value in any of these job titles because I think it's more important to focus on what your role and your responsibilities are. So when you're looking for a job, make sure to read your job posting carefully and really try to figure out what your tasks will be and what kind of skills the company is looking for. Let's take a look at job postings for product designers versus UX designers. I've looked up some job postings on LinkedIn for both roles internationally, and I try to understand what the differences are. So product designers are oftentimes tasked with designing flows, experiences, with creating a product from concept to high fidelity prototype or even final UI or mockups. They conduct user research and extract insights from the data. And they also oftentimes contribute to strategy planning and roadmap planning. Another important thing for product designers is that they work cross-functionally. So they will have to work together with people like developers, project managers, and other stakeholders. Now, when you take a look at job postings for UX designers, you'll find that the requirements are pretty much the same. So also UX designers are tasked with designing flows, with designing wireframes, and also a lot of job postings actually mention that they expect UX designers to design high fidelity prototypes. One thing that I don't see much in job postings for UX designers is that they are tasked with creating the final UI. That is most of the time a role that is reserved for the UI designer or the user interface designer. Now, on top of that, what is also important for UX designers is that they are an advocate for the users. So of course they conduct user research, they do user interviews, but they also do something like usability testing or user testing. And just like product designers, UX designers also have to work closely together with people in different roles, for example, developers, product managers, business managers, or maybe even customer care agents. So to illustrate all of this a little bit more with my own experiences, I started out my career as a UX designer, and in this role I was mostly working on developing new apps or new products for existing clients. So that means that a lot of my work was focused on the early stages of the design process. I did a lot of user research, I created a lot of wireframes, but I also spoke together with clients and developed value propositions or did workshops with them. So even though I was responsible for creating wireframes and prototypes, I never created the final user interface. That is something that my UI design colleagues did. Now I'm working as a product designer, and still a lot of my tasks are the same as what I did before. However, I'm not that responsible for user research anymore because now I'm lucky enough to have colleagues that are specialized user researchers and that do all the research for us. However, what has changed in the role is that even though I'm still creating wireframes, I'm now also responsible for creating the final UI. And I can do that because we have a very good design system in place. So even for someone like me, who is not a specialized UI designer, I can still create the final designs based on the wireframes that I created before. Another thing that I have noticed is that today I'm much more aware of business objectives, of strategy. I work very closely together with my project manager to decide what kind of features need to be developed. Although I'm not sure if that is because I work as a product designer right now, or if that's because I now work as an in-house designer at a big organization. And in the past, when I worked as a UX designer, I worked in an agency. I don't really prefer one role over the other. For me, it's much more important that I have an impact as a designer in the company that I'm working at, and that I have projects that allow me to really span the whole design process. For me personally, I really like the early stages of design, where you're still defining the problem, where you're still ideating on solutions. But this is something that I've done both as a UX designer as well as a product designer. So what does this mean for you when you're looking for a job? Do not get too stressed over finding a job with only a product designer title or a UX designer title, because as you can see in this video, the differences aren't that big. If you really want to be sure that you get a title that will help you further in your career, or you want to have a specific product design title or UX design title, then I recommend you take a close look at the job postings in your region, because these differences also differ from company to company, as I already said. And it might happen that in some regions, product designers get a different salary scale than UX designers. So that is also something that's worth looking into. But when it comes down to what you will do on a daily basis, there might not be that much difference. In terms of what to do next, if you're looking to become a UX designer, I recommend you check out the free UX short course from CareerFoundry. If you want to know more about working as a UX designer, I recommend you check out this video. There I show you a day in the life of working as a UX designer. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. I'll break you. And I can already tell you, the results might shock you. Now,